Welcome to Ride the Stream, where we are in the midst of season two of Lost. I am co-host Travis Licata, and I am accompanied by dearest of dearest, Michelle
Hmm.
Brittany. Uh, we are the duo of one veteran and newbie, where we dissect each episode and get Michelle's fresh takes on a series she had never watched previously.
Yep.
Michelle, it's good to see you. How are you doing today?
Oh, I'm doing all right. Keeping it real. I was at a Edgar Rice Burroughs conference over the weekend, and I consequently have the dreaded con cred. So yeah, kind of, but I'm here. I did my homework. We keep it real here. There's no AI, Memorex and all that kind of stuff, whatever. And of
Damn
course.
right.
And I had to wear my t-shirt, the thing. And anybody that lives in Arizona or has been through the southeast area of Arizona will know all about the thing. For the rest of you, go look it up. There's a Wikipedia page for it. But it was fun, and you do get to see this little fellow here in the
So cool.
exhibit. I love the vaporwave vibes to it, so. And kind of Star Trekky, or not Star Trekky, but Star Wars Mandalorian type of look. And you, of course, have your Star Wars. So we did not script that. That was, totally by accident. We didn't have a memo, but yeah. So I'm here. How about you, Travis? I yip yapped, but how you doing?
Just trying to find enough rest in the day. Uh, these our chats are highlights of my day, my weeks, because the world's not in a good place.
Sure.
And this gives me some semblance of solace, comfort, joy. So
Yeah.
I'm excited to dive into this episode specifically because we get a different vantage point.
Yeah.
Because this episode, I think, is called The First 48 Days. Um,
I think it's the other 48 days.
ah, I think you're right. Yes. I pull up my notes. Yes, the other 48 days. And, this was originally aired on November 16th, 2005.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
and what's interesting about, or what hope to find interesting, I know I'll find interesting about your take
Mm-hmm.
is how the episode, not only the viewpoint from the other survivors, but the way it's filmed, and just all the little things that we learn. Because along the way, it was like, Anna Lucia, you're very aggressive towards the original survivors, and like beating the crap out of Sawyer, and this episode kind of gives full context to where she got to that point. Um, although I think her original intention with Nathan might have been the original focal point, but we'll get to that.
Yeah.
Um,
Yep.
and if you're ready, I can, for those familiar with us, we read a synopsis and go into a few standard questions. Um, and also, let's give a snap or in the comments, give a thumbs up to Michelle for being here while having con crud. Let's show
Yeah.
the love. Um,
Oh, thank
and
you.
if you're ready, Michelle, I can dive into the synopsis and then we can get to the nitty gritty.
That sounds great. I'm
All
ready.
right.
Hit me with it.
All right. It's a serene day at the beach. The water is gently breaking on the shore, palm trees slightly swaying to the breeze, and then the sky starts falling. No, wait, that's airplane parts crashing into the ocean, including the tail end section. We then see Ana Lucia's viewpoint as the camera twists and turns in and out of the water, seeing the sinking plane, other people on the water, and the beach. After she gains some semblance of reality after the initial shock, she starts carrying people to shore, and so does Mr. Echo. One boy asks Echo about his sister, and he quickly rushes back out to the girl who was face down in the water. Anna sees her, rushes over, and starts CPR. The girl spits up water and begins breathing again. She asks about her mom because she was supposed to meet them when the plane landed in Los Angeles. So Anna promises her that she'll get back home soon enough. The usual survival things happen. Someone starts a signal fire to hopefully be seen at night. People rummage along the shore. And oh, one other thing, they survive an attack at night by the others. Several are kidnapped, but two of the attackers are killed by Mr. Echo, sending him into a 40-day stretch of not talking, while Anna fills the role as leader amongst the surviving group. The group is somewhat getting along, but after another attack a week later, Anna begins to have sneaking suspicions about Nathan, who has gone off alone to use the bathroom despite the rule of going off in pairs. There's a clear, contentious relationship between the two as they both seem to have opinions on how to handle moving forward as survivors. And eventually, the group goes inland, away from the beach, to avoid any more kidnapping attempts. Which, on the last attempt, they discovered a knife and a list of people from the survivors who were taken. How did they get their names? Who made the list? Why were these people chosen? This trip inland also gives Anna the perfect excuse to start digging a hole after they make camp. Odd, right? She constructs this hole, which Jen, Sawyer, and Michael were previously thrown into, but the reason for the hole starts with one person, Nathan, who happens to be helping Bernard set up traps in the morning to maybe catch some rabbits when Anna strolls along and just kicks him square in the face. She carries him to the hole, dumps him in, and then interrogates him for days to let her know where the kids are. Those same kids she promised to get home, but were abducted by these unknown people. Anna is then furious to discover someone has fed Nathan a banana, accusing Bernard, which he then denies, but asks, "What if you're wrong?" Echo seems to confess to feeding Nathan without saying a word. Anna then says that she will cut off Nathan's finger with a knife so she can find out for sure where the kids are. All the suspense. Later that night, Goodwin throws a rope down and rescues Nathan from the hole. He gives him some provisions and says Anna is going to hurt him. Nathan heads back in the direction of the beach. I don't know why I'm laughing. But Goodwin grabs him when his back is turned and then kills him. Later the next morning, Anna wakes up and turns over to see Goodwin lying next to her and staring at her.
Awkward
Creepy.
and
Uh,
creepy.
the flight attendant, Cindy, rushes over and says Nathan is gone and that he escaped. They decide to break camp and that it's not safe anymore. They trek further along and find a bunker with a radio inside. They go back outside. Bernard turns it on and tries to communicate. But Goodwin almost immediately takes the radio, turns it off, and says they need to get to higher ground, and he volunteers for himself to go alone. But Anna says, "No, I'll go too."
Mhm.
She starts asking questions about these other people to Goodwin on their journey. And when they eventually stop to take a break, she eventually asks him about the day they crash and how he rushed out of the jungle shouting for help, but his clothes weren't wet. She then asks what he did to Nathan. And after confessing that Nathan wasn't a nice person, she then asks if he killed the kids too. To which Goodwin replies, "The children are fine. They're better off now." She attacks, they fight, roll down a hill, and Anna grabs her pointed walking stick at the bottom as Goodwin jumps on top of her. He's impaled, it's a grisly death, and Anna returns to the group saying that they're safe now. Oh, Bernard also tries the radio again and hears Boone's calls for help from the plane before it fell from the cliff, leading to his death. Anna turns off the radio and says it's them and that it's a trap. Flash forward to finding Jen, Michael, and Sawyer, their subsequent days to reaching the original survivors' camp, and the gunshot heard around the world. With Anna's look of shock staring at the scene in front of her, including Shannon's crumpled body, we now understand what happened to the other survivors in the first 48 days.
Mhm.
That's an episode. I want to just dive right in. Um,
Okay.
your initial thoughts after seeing this episode for the first time. Did you have any overall thoughts, any opinions about the characters? Hit me with
Okay.
it.
Sounds good. I have a few points. So first I'll say that I was a little bit taken aback by how fast the episode is. They pack a lot in the episode, in each episode, and this was no different, even though the editing and storytelling style was a little different. We didn't have the traditional. I would say that the flashback is each day counting forward, where we see a highlight from, I'm going to say, the beta group, Anna Lucia's beta group, um, and how it fades to black. Then you have the intertitle card of what day it is for them, and then you get another highlight. All at all times, it's very tense. I don't think there was really any humor per se, like we have gotten in pretty much all the episodes. There's no humor with this group. It is full on survival mode, I felt. And so it was very tense, suspenseful, um, stressful, watching through this. But at the same time, I felt like a few things. One, that it gave me better insight into what the beta group was going through in the first days, which surprisingly was, or maybe shouldn't be all that surprising, very similar to what Alpha Group went through. The importance of resources, build a rescue fire, some of the internal bickering going on, and, the natural leader that comes to the top, which in this case is Anna. And the fact that, Mr. Echo kind of is the John Locke like character, the infiltration of an other to the group. Honestly, in the first moments of them crashing, which is very interesting, I was trying to think back, and I didn't go back and watch, but wondered whether, sorry, kitty cat wants the mouse. Um,
Bing.
yeah, wondering if, Ethan kind of like showed up on the beach as well, in those first moments. The fact that Goodwin was like right there, like Johnny on the spot, in the first moments, does make me wonder whether the others, his group, had something to do with the plane, uh, crashing over the island or into the island. You understand what I mean.
Mhm.
So it led me to kind of wonder, whether they had something to do with it. Um, the other thing is, how did Goodwin know to be basically in that area for the crash site of this group? And why did they infiltrate so quickly? Well, I thought about the fact that it was a much smaller group. We're talking half the size of the alpha group. I think they had like 46, 47, where the beta group only had about, I think they said about 23. And they were
Think so.
quickly dwindled down, and made me wonder, like, okay, what are they doing with the survivors? Why are they taking them? Why did they take, the kids and the strong ones? And I thought that I spent some time, you know, thinking about that. And then I was thinking back to when we saw the barefooted people going through, and
Yeah.
the bear on the string. So leads me to think, okay, was it the little girl or the little boy that's with that group? Um, I found it really intriguing, a few things. One, the fact that the clothes that the others have, no labels, nondescript, no no phones, no nothing on them, so that way you have no idea who they are. And the fact that Goodwin was able to get in there and tell kind of a believable story. He was pretty believable initially. But then when Anna said, well, you weren't even wet from the crash, and then when I rewatched, I was like, oh, he really wasn't. And he came running out of the forest. So I was like, oh, that's good observation and stuff. And so I'm going to be honest, I felt like, well, I don't hate Annalisa and think she's necessarily a biatch. I'm still upset that she shot Shannon.
Yeah.
And the disorientation of hearing whispers and this torrential downstorm and rainfall and stuff like that. So those were kind of the initial things. One, a little surprised by how closely Beta Group kind of shook out, similar to the Alpha Group. The fact that we don't get a whole lot of information about Beta Group, but the highlights we get, I kind of felt like I was able to kind of fill in the gaps myself because of what we saw with the Alpha Group. The other thing that I thought about was, what if we had followed Beta Group in season one? How would we feel differently, perhaps, about Alpha Group when we get their recap?
Yeah.
Because we're very invested in Alpha Group, and we're learning about Beta Group. So, and they found a bunker almost immediately, which was interesting. They found a glass eye, a tattered Bible, a radio that still had some charge to it. Um, but a pretty much vacated bunker. So we
Yeah.
really wonder what is going on. And again, was Goodwin's group part of Rousseau's group? Was it a totally separate group? And when Bernard gets Boone, I didn't recognize that it was Boone's voice. I happened to see it when I went to look up in Wikipedia because I was trying to figure out who played Godwin. And I couldn't figure out from the credits. So I went and I looked, and then I found out, oh, that was actually Boone's voice. But I was kind of going down the road of, well, if it's the others, or is it another unknown group on the island? Maybe like a third crash site group. No clue. There
Which
are
you've mentioned before is the potential of there being, again, another group of survivors potentially.
yeah, like at least three, perhaps, groups, plus all the other various. Um, I'm left scratching my head, like, what is Godwin's group, really? And of course, now we won't know through him. But he dressed a lot like Ethan, if I remember correctly. So they must have had some clothes. It was kind of a nice red herring to have Nathan possibly be the infiltrator, Nathan,
Yeah.
then, and then but like you said, Goodwin was pretty creepy when Anna woke up and he's like staring at her, and I'm like, oh, what is your deal, dude?
Yeah.
And I even wrote in my notes, awkward and creepy. So,
Yeah. I Goodwin, I think you're right. He established himself within the group really well.
mhm.
Um, and then once Nathan escaped, it's like his wheels started falling off. I guess because Anna Lucia's suspicion started shifting.
Mhm.
Um, so um, yeah, it's hard to gauge Ana Lucia's character um, because she is very aggressive and um, it's hard to know what would she be like in regular day life, you know? Like she
Yeah,
had that scene with Jack, I think at the end of season one. It was like, you know, perfectly friendly and they were kind of flirting and stuff like
flirty.
that.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
so obviously this is a traumatic, stressful experience. And, you know, maybe that has allowed her to kind of say, okay, it's survival mode, doing whatever I
yeah,
can. Um, but like you said, her shooting Shannon, she even like argued with it was Michael or Sawyer, like, if you think one bullet is going to protect us from them, and yet she's, she still felt like she had to use it. Um,
yeah.
and just quickly going back to the episode having no humor, which I agree. When I rewatched it this morning, I did kind of chuckle briefly
Hmm.
when Jen gets captured and he Echo's kind of like got the stick and talking to him, who are you? Where are you from? And Jen's talking in Korean. And then he's talking to Anna, and Anna's like, he's one of them. He's got a broken
Hmm.
handcuff. And he's like, I don't think he's a threat. And then cue
Yeah,
to Jen breaking free after he
yeah,
says
that's
that.
true.
And that just made me laugh. But that's again, that's the only possible moment of humor. And I didn't even catch on that in the first however many times I've watched the episode. But this morning I watched and I was like, ah, that's pretty funny. So
Yeah, it
uh,
was interesting that Mr. Echo was of the opinion that at least Jin was not a threat, that he wasn't. And I mean, if you look at the clothes and things like that, they would have had their labels in them. Maybe he doesn't have other things, and it's suspect, with the fact with the dangling half of a handcuff. Um, but again, I think that's kind of a red herring. Um, we don't get a whole lot of time to get to know anybody in this episode either. I definitely, like you, I'm curious about Lucia, curious about Mr. Echo. We kind of have some idea about Bernard through Rose, because she's with the Alpha group. But I am very curious about Anna, particularly when she talks with Godwin or Goodwin, excuse me, with Goodwin and talks about how she knows the knife is an older knife, that it's a military grade, but it's one that hasn't been used for a couple of decades. So that's why I was like kind of thinking, well, is he like maybe part of the Rousseau group? Because they've been there at least 16 years,
right.
so, is he actually part of that group? Don't know. But how is there a U.S. military grade knife that looks pretty substantial? I thought that I actually liked how she um, and never kind of skipped a beat with trying to protect the group, frantically protect the group, fanatically protect the group, because of how quickly the numbers were going down.
Yeah.
Um, and, that's unfortunate. And I'm sure, when she cries at one point at the stream, she's carrying so much, um, so it'll be
And they
interesting to see more of her story.
and like you said earlier with the shadowing of what happened to the Alpha group survivors, like
Hmm.
they tortured Sawyer because they thought he had something that he didn't, and she did the same thing with Nathan. So there's this parallel of
Yeah.
kind of, I guess, under duress, they're making decisions based on limited information, if any.
Mhm.
Um, so it is interesting to see how the two groups compare. Um, and now that we've reached the point where we're going to see, I'm assuming we're going to see in the next episode the two groups finally merge, I'm guessing, because I can't
Yeah.
remember, and then see how those dynamics will differ.
Yeah.
Um, and I guess we'll take a brief pause and we'll be right back.
Mhm.
Hey everyone, this is Travis with Red Stream. Just want to say thanks for joining our video. If you can, like and subscribe. Really does give us a boost to see new subscribers. And today, just to interrupt this video, we just want to say for Lost, who is your favorite character? We're in season 2 right now, so there's been quite a few changes throughout the first and second season. So, do you have a favorite character, or is there a character you'd like to see more of? Just drop that in the comments below. Again, thank you for taking time to listen to Michelle and I chat about Lost season 2, and we'll get back to the conversation. All right, bye. And we're back. I think now would be a good time to maybe uh, jump into questions. And I was thinking of the third question I have because we touched on it briefly,
Yeah.
or you touched on it briefly when you were describing the episode about the way the episode was edited.
Hmm.
Um, the they the scene changes. There were They had some fade to black. Some they switched about black quickly. Some of the sequences that were already seen that they were cycling through, there were some intense drum sequences.
Hmm.
Um, how did, I guess, the overall production of this episode affect maybe the overall episode as a whole? How the beta group survived versus the alpha group? Did it um, provide a different perspective in any way for you?
Um, yeah, I think that if they had gone with their familiar formula and maybe done if they let me back up. I think if they hadn't done kind of a recap, get you up to speed, I think it would have been a little off-putting and maybe a misstep if they hadn't done the episode this way. And we did see this a little bit at the beginning of season 2, when they stormed the bunker and they discover Desmond, and we get a little overlap and different perspective. So
Right.
I think that that was, well, a little bit like, oh, what's this? This is a little different. Now, I mean, we're accustomed to it enough where the entire episode makes a little more sense because we don't, it's hard to like a character when you really don't know anything about them. And Anna comes off as someone that's like, a real biatch. Um, and now we have a better idea of like what they went through their first 40 plus days, which was much more rapid and life-threatening than what we had for the alpha group. Like they had strength in numbers
Yeah.
versus the beta group, which really didn't have that many people. They also didn't have really any resources. Like with the alpha group, they had the fuselage, at least a good chunk of it, and they had luggage, they had overhead compartments, they had chairs, they
I
had the
just
wheelchair, they had a lot of resources. But for the beta group, any resources that they had went down with the tail end. And I'm honestly not sure how much, I mean, I don't know the anatomy of a plane, but it would seem like in your ladder section when it's starting to thin down, that you probably don't have that much in the back anyway. So they were already at a disadvantage. So now I have better insight through the recap of understanding why they are the way they are. And I have enough breadcrumbs to kind of have an idea that we're going to have some clashing between the two groups when they do meet up. That's been exasperated by the fact that Ana Lucia just shot Shannon, you know. So the perfectly rational Saeed is probably not going to be very rational in the coming weeks and is going to be pretty distraught. And, he's always kind of a rock that kind of keeps things together. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see what's going to happen with that. But I think that if they had if they had done like maybe season two flip-flopped and spent an entire season on the beta group, I think that would have been really weird, and then in the third season, okay, now we're gonna work them towards each other. I think that I don't know. I think they took the right approach,
Yeah.
and kind of pull them pull them in, give you some background, but because you already have the knowledge of the Alpha group and what they went through, you've kind of got an idea because we can refer back to Ethan in the Alpha group what he was up to. We know that they were after kids in the Alpha group, and there weren't that many, right? We had Walt and we had Claire's baby, Aaron. Um, so I think it actually worked well. I think it gave a little bit more insight into, like I said, Anna Lucia. Not so much with the others per se. It was mostly focused on her, but we didn't have any flashbacks otherwise, so it definitely deviated, but I don't think it detracted at all from the storytelling, an interesting narrative, and us feeling like we're part of the group and feeling the
Yeah.
stress of what the group is feeling. So I think that the writers, and director and the cinematography all brought that together successfully, like they have through the what 30 episodes that they've already done.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. The narrative is definitely driven through Anna's eyes in this episode. Um,
yeah.
it did, I would say, I think the only thing, because I think you're right, we didn't learn too much about the beta group. It, despite his silence, I felt like Echo's intuition, um, whether it's similar to Locke or Saeed, where there's this able to decipher things. Like
Mhm.
if he truly was the one that gave Nathan a banana, like, maybe that was him saying, "Hey, I don't think this is the right thing to do." Him thinking that Jin's okay. Um, so it makes me wonder, but also Goodwin fooled them for weeks. Um,
Yeah.
so it's hard to kind of gauge um their experience despite the summary in the episode, just because I know there's a point where Bernard kind of claps back saying, like, with Nathan in the hole, what if you're wrong? Like, what if Nathan is just one of us? And he even questioned, I think, after the first week, like, why would they infiltrate us? um Even though it was true, it's probably a logical question to like ask.
Hmm.
um so it was interesting to see the group kind of play out. And when they got to that stopping point by a creek, and Nathan was like, "No,
Hmm.
I'm going to stay here. You guys can walk on." Everyone looked back at Anna to see how she would respond.
Yep.
Um, and she responded by digging a hole so she could throw him in. Um,
Yeah. it Goodwin was an interesting character insofar as he really played off the others, so he wasn't really tipping his hat. But when she started asking the questions about like why this, why that, um, I think she, was trying to, she was feeling around, but she definitely had her suspicions with him.
Yeah. Let's see. Now the we can go into uh our usual first question, which is
Sure.
what is your favorite scene or standout moment from this episode? And did you have more than one? Because that's not what we do here. That's definitely not what I do. I've got one and that's it, and there's never more than that. And
Oh, sure. Sure. Well, I have three. So I got, a couple honorable mentions, and then I have my primary one. So my honorable mention, or the two, is I thought I can't get away from the awkward and creepy scene when Anna wakes up and Goodwin is already awake and watching her very intently. That was like kind of like, okay, there's something wrong with him. And I'm feeling like he's trying to calculate something out. Like maybe he was a group leader, or maybe, he's probably not the group leader of the group that he's from, but he was definitely like a strategist of some sort and probably a lieutenant who figured, yeah, I got this, no problem, and then he met his match with her. And he was probably trying to figure her out,
yeah,
and figure out how to use her aggression against her, and kind of feed into that so that way he can kind of control the situation. And he was so totally not in control. Um, but that's one interesting scene. The second one that I thought was pretty powerful is when Mr. Echo comforts Anna at the stream when she lets down her guard and she starts crying. And he goes over and speaks to her, and she says, "It took you 40 days to talk?" And he just responds, "It took you 40 days to cry."
great.
They're
Yeah,
yeah, great scene. Really like that. And it just really shows that there's a definite bond there between them. But I'm gonna go with when Ana Lucia grills Goodwin as she is deducing and confirming that he is truly and indeed the infiltrator. I think she had already figured out that it was him when Nathan disappeared and they can't find him. And the fact that she was so insistent on going with him with the radio,
yeah.
you know, like she knew he was up to something. So yeah, that's my scene. What about you? I know you only have one because that's always how you work.
I did have three, and then last minute I did add the one uh with Jin being found as an honorable mentioning the group assessing him and Echo saying, I'm not sure he's a threat, and then he breaks free and runs.
Yeah.
I added that one today. Um, I I did one of my honorable mentions was the just the opening sequence. Um,
Hmm.
Kind of similar vibes to the pilot episode. Um, Having the different vantage points of being in the water and being spun around and the chaos. I thought that was well done. My other honorable mention is your top pick, which is her conversation with Goodwin before the fight, especially when they sit down, and they're passing the knife back and forth as he cuts fruit. Um,
Yeah.
and the questions that she asks him are so interesting, even along the journey where she asks him why they're attacking them, and his initial response is, maybe they're not attacking us. And she's like, they're kidnapping us in the night, but sure, no harm done. And so like that onion is unraveling quickly. And just
Yeah.
as they're sitting there, as if they're at a chess table
Mm-hmm.
talking back and forth, it's a really well done scene. Um, it kind of it really does highlight, I guess, her, I think your word is right, fanatic approach when they get Jen, Sawyer, and Michael for the first time. Like they're taking no chances.
Yeah.
They got fooled for weeks. Um, she made a mistake with Nathan. Um, and so watching them two talk, and he's so matter of fact when she asks what he did with Nathan. And he's
Mm-hmm.
like, he said something to the degree of like, if you would have caught off his finger and he still said he was on the plane, like you would have started thinking you had the wrong person, which
Mm-hmm.
is why he got rid of him. And I thought that
Yeah.
was
He also
so,
said that he was not a good person, and I'm like, how would you even know that in
yeah,
the several days, especially when he didn't really talk about himself, and when he did, it was I was on a retreat with my, you know, workmates, and then of course, Anna's asking him, well, where were they? Well, they weren't on that flight with him. Okay, that kind of is logical that they might not be on the same flight.
yeah.
Um, but it was a pretty good red herring uh, for the group.
Yeah. And the fact that he says he wasn't a nice person, so he killed him. What does that make
Yeah.
him? Like, so the Goodwin is so sure of himself in that moment, sitting with Anna, and there's just this no hesitation when talking about getting rid of Nathan. And
Mm-mm.
when she asks about the children, he's like, "Oh, they're fine. They're better off now." And that's where this episode kind of makes me wonder, well, what is the mindset of the others? Like, you
Hmm.
know,
Yeah.
taking people, presumably, does that mean it's the same group that took Walt and um, with Ethan, like him trying to take Claire? Like, what is their ultimate goal?
Hmm.
Um, so I do find that scene just very compelling. I did go with the favorite scene with Echo and Anna at the creek,
Hmm.
where she's kind of finally letting it out, and you quoted him, and it's such a great line.
Hmm.
And she's trying to be snarky, and like she started off by saying like, "What do you want?" or something, and he's just like, "It'll be okay."
Yeah.
And then she's like, "Oh, what? You're gonna talk now after 40 days?"
Yeah.
And it's just, I think it provides different layers to both their characters because she's so guarded, and like you said, she's got the weight of the world on her shoulder, trying to protect people, the people she hasn't been able to protect, the decisions she's made, and then Echo, there's a lot to him. Like he can see that burden on her. And I think
Yeah.
it's probably the same burden he felt why he didn't talk for 40 days because he killed two guys.
Yeah.
And the impact of that. And I even like that when Libby approached him with chicken and
Yeah.
like, hey, it wasn't your fault. You were just defending yourself. And she was trying to make him feel better in that moment. Um, so yeah, I think we didn't get a lot from the beta group as far as personality goes, but I think we did gain a little bit more insight into them. Um,
Yeah.
Now, was there a character that you enjoyed the most in this episode?
Yeah, I've got a list of three. I did the Travis approach. So, my runner-up, first runner-up, or second, whatever, bottom of my top three. I put Goodwin, actually. I think he was a nasty piece of work, master manipulator, and villain. Um, and yet he's a, a unusual villain because he does actually remind Anna at one point that they're not savages, which I thought was very interesting. Um, and just made me think that I couldn't really believe him when he said the kids were better off, they're fine. So I'm like, well, how do you define savage? Obviously, it is okay to come and kidnap people in the middle of the night. Create a list of the people that you want to kidnap, which includes the strongest ones, except for Anna. Um, so that makes me wonder, okay, well, were you grooming her? Were you trying to fill her out, decide if maybe you could offer her a role in this other group? You know what,
Yeah.
no clue. So I just thought he was a character that had a lot of, varying degrees on a spectrum of good and bad, but generally just very good at manipulating and disguising that. So I thought he actually did a really good job, like the actor. Um, I know I've seen him in other stuff. That's why I was like trying to figure out who he was. Actually thought he was like no, I can't remember now. I'm thinking of an actor, but I can't think of the name. But anyway, I thought it was that actor, but it's not. He's actually somebody else, but just as good. My first runner-up, I actually put Anna Lucia. I'm intrigued by her. I don't hate her now. But and I'm anxious to learn more about her backstory. I feel like um it'll be interesting to see what her backstory is. If they do indeed go back to the normal formula and we get to see some backstory of her. Um, she strikes me from what I know so far, like she's a very hardened version of Kate. Like if she'd gone through the same experience as Kate, but Kate came out, this was still kind of a soft core, you know, um, there's still humanity there. I mean, and I'm not going to say that Anna doesn't have humanity, but she has such a tough exterior, whereas Kate does, but you can soon peel that back and get more to the core of a person who is very caring. And I think that Anna is probably that way too, but she's very much a hardened, has a really, really tough hide. Um,
Yeah.
and I think that'll be interesting to see how did she get that way? I'm very curious about that. So she was my runner-up. Before I reveal mine, do you have a list?
Um, I had the same two runner-ups.
Oh, did
Uh,
you?
yeah, I did.
Oh,
I, I,
oh,
I didn't put them in any order, but
oh, okay.
Goodwin and Anna, Anna
Hmm.
is she's driving the narrative of the story.
Hmm.
She's not my favorite character, but this episode you can understand to a degree, um, or even more than a degree, why she's doing what she's doing. And I think you were talking about Kate. I find it interesting, like uh, Anna and Jack both were the ones who made the ultimate decision to torture someone. Saeed was doing it, but he got Jack's permission
Mm-hmm.
as the quote unquote leader.
Mm-hmm.
And 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 I mean, after the fact, I think Goodwin was like, "Hey, what are you doing?" or something like that, or Bernard was like, "Hey, what if you're wrong?" But in the initial moment, Kate was there to say, "Hey, if you do this, there's no coming back."
Yeah.
I remember that line just because it was, Kate and Jack were so tight, but she
Yeah.
wasn't afraid to say, "Hey, you need to think about this." And I wonder if Anna had that counterpoint. Maybe if Echo had not gone on his like silent streak, maybe he would have he kind of vocalized it with his look. Um, but there wasn't a super vocal opponent to what she was doing. So it makes me wonder,
Yeah.
would and if Anna, if there were more people to support her
Yeah.
as a leader, which would she take such a drastic action? I don't know. And I think you summed up Goodwin great. You know, someone you just don't expect. And I find it striking that Ethan was equally when he first appeared on screen. I mean, it was only a couple episodes before his switch flipped, but he was like gathering wood, he was hunting with Locke, happy go lucky.
Mm-hmm.
And then once he appeared in front of Charlie and Claire with that vacant,
Uh-huh.
like it was kind of similar to um what's his
Good
name?
one. Good
Goodwin,
one.
thank you. Brain farting over here. Um, he, I mean, he was, I think, a little more calm and controlled with it. Ethan
Mm-hmm.
kind of went psycho in a way, and Goodwin, I think, was more calculating in that manner, where he was just like you said, he's trying to feel Anna out, and
Yeah.
but you know, the veil of whatever good he had done for the group the previous weeks, once that went away, it was like, all right, we're attacking each other. Like there's no going back now. So
Yeah.
I find that interesting that they had similarities, Ethan and Goodwin. Um, so uh, maybe do we have the top same? I'm assuming.
I
Who did
think
you
we
think?
probably have the same person.
I'll let you go and share your bits, and then I can add any thoughts on after.
Sure. Libby.
Oh, okay.
I'm kidding.
Oh,
I really meant Bernard. Cindy, Mr. Echo for the win.
when you said Cindy, I was about to say who? Oh, that was
No,
great.
Mr. Echo. Mr.
Yeah.
Echo. He gets gold star. I felt like he really faced really tough tasks. Not only does he go and, work to save other people in the ocean when they first crash, but he's also the one that takes it upon himself to start collecting the dead bodies so others don't
Yeah.
have to. Um, he's a natural protector. Like he went right into protection mode and, he immediately got a weapon. I don't know what he was kind of carving in to the end. I don't know what he was doing there and I couldn't see it well enough.
Yeah.
Um, he seems to be a thoughtful thinker. And I felt like he's not dissimilar to John Locke, who's kind of the philosopher, spiritualist. It's interesting that he doesn't speak for 40 days because in the Bible, Moses, when he had the ark, it was like 40 days, 40 nights type of thing. So I thought that was kind of an interesting, tangible, biblical reference, perhaps. Who knows? But Yeah, I just felt like he's the strong silent type. And he's there. He's obviously thinking about things. Um, I don't know that he actually gave the banana to Nathan. Maybe he did. But I kind of wonder if it wasn't Goodwin that did it, that slipped in the banana because
Oh,
he had value until, because as long as Anna believed he was the one, Goodwin was safe. As soon as she said about the finger, that's when all bets were off and Goodwin had to take care of him. Um, because he was going to give it up and say, "Yeah, no, I was on the plane. I was assigned to blah, 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 whatever seat.
yeah.
Um, here's my hotel I was at, here's names, serial numbers of all my workmates and here's where we were or something. I don't know how I would have definitely been able to satisfy Anna's concerns, but he seemed to be concerned that she would. So,
Yeah. Um, I agree. I do find in my life, I'm growing up, I've just never taken to loud trash talkers. And that's how Sawyer was in the beginning. It's how Anna is in the beginning. And it's like, oh, okay, I've softened on Sawyer. Like you get to know someone, then you can actually understand them better and you can kind of form bonds. And so I'm hoping something similar with Anna will happen. But Echo,
hmm,
soft-spoken, you know, he can kind of read the room or assess what's going on. Uh,
yeah.
uh, the fact that he's just a beast and can protect, as you say, in a way that's scary. Um, but also softly go up to Cindy on the beach with the kids and say, "Can you watch them for a
Mhm.
few minutes? And I have something to do." And he goes off in the water to pull the dead bodies out. Like, I mean, that's in and of itself is such a huge burden. Um,
Yeah.
and and I think it's such an impact seeing their entire experience in an episode. And maybe that's why the episode seems so intense because we're getting it all at once. And maybe that's why their experience seems so frantic because they not only seem to encounter the other unknown people possibly more often. It seems more often. Um, but it just seems like their situation is a lot more tenuous and just everything is fragile. Like it could just completely fall apart. They could all be gone in an instant. And Echo just seems like this. He's like the ship's mast. He's like,
Mhm.
if he can stay around people, he can keep everything afloat. Um, Anna's kind of the captain. She's directing everything. And I don't, I mean, I'm sure she can clearly hold her own too, but Echo just has this presence of, he's also willing to, I guess, stand up to her. Like when Sawyer needed a break and he
Yeah.
saw that he's not looking good. We're gonna take a break here. And he gave him water. So I
Yeah.
like that he has that in him too. Um, yeah, he is similar to Locke. Quiet, thoughtful, says something when he wants to.
Hmm.
Um, and I think that's what's going to be exciting about, you know, them potentially merging is are there going to be some similarities that come to each other?
Yeah.
Are they going to bounce away from each other? Like, similar poles on a magnet, like they're going to push each other apart, or are they going to bond? Um, because we already know that Anna and Sawyer didn't weren't best friends. So it'll be interesting to see how someone like Locke and Echo get along,
Yeah.
um, or Jack and Anna Lucia, um, and yeah, I think Echo was great in this episode. Um, are there any other moments or things that we haven't touched on that you think are
Mm,
worth mentioning?
Um, I think just that how rough it was from the get-go from the beta group, I thought was really interesting. How, you know, I thought alpha group had it rough, but beta group had it 10 times, 100 times worse than the alpha group. And it's kind of again, if we're talking about this as some sort of an experiment or microcosm study, you definitely get a different picture, with each group and how they respond. But at the same time, they kind of have similar personalities in their groups, and similar kind of outcomes. So it's interesting. I'm anxious to see what happens when they come together, and what sparks will fly, what friendships will be formed, what's going to happen with the dynamic when the two come together. And will we discover there's going to be a third group? You know, who knows?
And Bernard and Rose.
They'll finally be reunited, and Rose will be vindicated because she never wavered from believing that he's alive.
Amazing. Like,
Yep.
oh,
Yep.
um, yeah, I'm looking forward to that. Um, I think the only thing that stood out to me is how gruesome that leg injury was, and I hate that I saw the the bone poke.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah.
and then she was telling him about her leg and swat, twist. Oh,
Hmm.
woo, that was
Yeah.
brutal. Skin
Yeah.
crawling on that one.
Yep. Yeah.
Um,
Definitely.
well, I think that will wrap up season two, episode seven. For those that are with us, thank you for watching or listening. If you haven't in the background, if you haven't already, please give this video a thumbs up, subscribe. We're here chit chatting about Lost because we would be doing it anyway. We'll have
Yes.
more content in the future. Maybe chat up some Indiana Jones or something. But
Yeah.
we'll get to
Maybe.
that. We've got
Yeah.
plenty of time.
Yep.
And if you leave a comment, just please make sure for all the newbies out there who have not yet seen Lost, because it is a thing.
Yep.
Just put no spoiler alert before you comment on any episode after this one. Um, besides that, I think we'll see everyone on the flip side.
Definitely.